welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. This is episode number 8 of the That's 9. 8 of the Globalisation revision series over here on my channel. Today we're going to be looking at the question, towards a global culture. Is that a thing? Cultural diffusion, cultural erosion, that kind of thing. So do stick around to watch this if that is useful to you. I make these videos every single Monday at 4:30 p.m. I've gone through tectonic processes and hazards so far, and the glaciated landscapes and change series. We're currently on globalisation, and then next I'm either going to do coasts or regeneration. So let me know which one you'd prefer down in the comments, and let's just get straight on into this. If you haven't subscribed, please do so down below. I'm going through the whole specification, so I'm sure it'll be useful for you. Cuba opened its doors. The 21st of March 2016, a historic date. On that day, Barack Obama became the first US president to visit Cuba in 57 years. Cuba's head of government, Fidel Castro, declared Cuba a communist state in 1959. When he took over the country in a revolution that resulted in its isolation from the Western capitalist world for 50 years. Subsidies from the communist government in the USSR supported its economy until 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed. After 1991 and the ending of the subsidies from its main backer, Cuba began a period of development that included accepting foreign capital, particularly from tourism. Tourism brought many Cubans into contact with foreign travellers and their cultures, such as their clothes and their diets, for the first time. Since 2008, when Fidel Castro resigned due to ill health, his brother Raúl has been in power in Cuba. President Obama's visit was a result of the relaxation of strict communist controls by Raúl Castro, which has allowed free enterprise businesses to be set up for the first time in decades. This relaxation is similar, but smaller in scale, to that in communist China, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Since 2012, Cubans have been able to buy and sell houses, take out loans, and set up private businesses. However, on the other hand, guarantees of state employment have gone, and state-owned farmland has been sold off to private companies. Cuba's new spirit of openness has led to improved relations with the United States, which began to isolate Cuba from 1959 onwards. An initial sign of thawing relations between the two countries was the reopening of the US Embassy in Havana in August 2015 after its closure in 1961, followed by President Obama's official visit in March 2016. However, despite the welcomed political relaxation in Cuba, the accompanying social and economic changes are leading to growing inequality. 21st century Cuba. Cuba is changing rapidly. The influx of international tourists and the spread of satellite TV and internet is broadening Cubans' knowledge of the rest of the world and challenging Cuba's traditions and values. Globalisation is diluting Cuban culture. Netflix is now available to Cubans. American tourists are allowed to visit Cuba again, and the cap on remittances sent by Cuban Americans to relatives back home has been lifted. In some locations, cultural erosion, such as the loss of language and traditional food, has also resulted in changes in the environment. Beach resorts have changed Cuba's coastline, and its coral reefs are now threatened by such increased tourist activity. Until recently, Cuba's forced isolation protected it against such coastal developments. The process by which Western attitudes have moved to Cuba is known as cultural diffusion and is a symbol of globalisation. Closer and faster connections enable the transfer and spread of attitudes and values around the world, and traditions fall to new fashions and trends. The food, music, clothing and architecture of Cuba are changing, and it now takes a big effort to maintain strong Cuban identity. Cultural landscapes and diversity. Culture changes all the time. Economic development changes landscapes and creates new ways of living. People's attitudes and values also shift over time, as different influences play a part. Current global attitudes are affecting the processes in which people see the world. Global cultures develop where global processes exist at a local level. This shows how the urban environments in British cities, like Leicester's Gold Mile, have been transformed by decades of inward migration. Ethnic enclaves like this gain their own identity, where street furniture, road names and cuisine add to the city's multicultural character and strengthen cultural diversity. Cultural diffusion and the media. Traditionally, cultural differences are often expressed through language, because phrases don't easily transfer from one region to another. The real feel and soul of a culture can be lost in translation. However, as the ownership of the global broadcasting, film and music industries becomes ever more concentrated into the hands of large media TNCs, the use of increasingly common vocabulary is starting to erode cultural diversity. This is known as global homogenization of culture, with everywhere becoming the same. Cultural exchanges. Information technology and digital communications spread ideas and products faster than ever, which influences how people consume goods and services. Music, TV programmes and films are made by large media TNCs and now combine with migrations of people to create cultural mixes or hybrids. What we see on television, read a newspaper or listen to on music systems is increasingly provided by a small group of huge companies. 5 companies, EMI, Universal, AOL, Time Warner and Sony BMG, now own 90% of the global music market. In recent years, these companies have been cutting their ranges of recording artists in order to increase their profits. It makes better economic sense for them to sell 10 million CDs or downloads by one artist, such as Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran or Adele, rather than spending money, time and effort marketing 10 different artists, each selling 1 million. In some ways, globalisation is the 21st century term for global imperialism. Previous generations called it Americanization, Westernisation or modernisation. As the global economy draws people closer together, big brand names like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Disney, Nike become globally famous. Every year, Forbes, a US company, calculates the brand value of the top 50 companies. Its top 10 for 2015 were Apple, Microsoft, Google, Coca-Cola, IBM, McDonald's, Samsung, Toyota, General Electric and Facebook. Changing values. Globalisation can also change values, sometimes in a transformative and beneficial way. For example, the official data published by the Chinese state media in 2011 stated that only 25% of disabled people in China find employment. A year later, author James Palmer wrote, "Disabled people in modern China are still stigmatised, marginalised and abused." Yet, that same year, China came top of the medals table in the London's Paralympic Games. The chance to train and compete on the global stage has helped marginalised groups such as those with disabilities to gain support and training and gain a more equal status, although there is a very long way to go before any kind of equality is achieved. The same thing happened in the UK, where Australian TV comedian and presenter Adam Hills, himself disabled, stated that at the end of the 2012 Olympic Games, that Sydney was the first Paralympics to treat Paralympians as equals. London was the first to treat them as heroes. Increasingly, Western countries are adopting more tolerant policies on other ethical and moral issues such as gay rights. However, there is still some way to go in places such as Russia, some other European countries, the Middle East and Africa. Growing resistance. The spread of global culture has been counterbalanced by concerns about its impacts and about its perceived exploitation of both environment and people. This has led to opposition by anti-globalisation groups and environmental pressure groups, which reject globalised cultures and the practices of many TNCs to avoid tax payments. The Occupy movements from 2011 onwards have demonstrated in world cities such as London and New York. 2 examples of recent national resistance to a global culture are in Iran and France. In Iran in the early 2000s, the Islamic government led a backlash against Mattel's Barbie dolls, which were confiscated from toy stores when the government denounced its un-Islamic image. Since then, the government has liberalised its position, partly because of the need for international cooperation against radicalism, but also because Iranian youths are increasingly accessing banned social media such as Twitter and Facebook anyway. Until the early 2000s, France paved a way in rejecting globalisation. To protect French culture, the government excluded culture from its agreements on trade. It limited how much foreign culture, music, films, TV could be broadcast. And 40% of broadcasts had to be French, with no more than 55% American film imports. However, internet downloading of films and music has placed this in dispute. Since 2007, the French government has been accepting more of globalisation because of the successful French TNCs such as EDF Energy. And that is the end of episode number 8 of the Globalisation revision series. I hope you learned something, I hope it was useful. Please do subscribe down below because I upload these every single Monday at 4:30 p.m. and let me know which topic you'd like to see next, either coasts or globalisation. Please let me know down in the comments, subscribe so you don't miss it, and I will see you same time, same place next week, Monday, 4:30 p.m. Bye guys.